What's going on, campers? Chops Doodle here with another deck build video. This one is called Santa Claus Ain't Messing Around. And I'll put the deck on the screen for a sec here. And we will hop right into it. Alright, this one is a little bit confusing, to be honest, but I think it'll be pretty crazy. Now, the hardest thing with this deck to figure out was the lantern situation. I've got 2 Shadow Lanterns, 2 Lush Lanterns, 3 Lapis, and 3 Meteorite. And hopefully those reasons will become apparent. As for our trails, we've got the Deltas, and we're trying out the North Star Trail, which gives Ice, Quartz, and Meteorite Cryptids +1 exploration range. So we're going to be taking advantage of that by running all 3 types of those cryptids. Ice cryptids are ones that say ice in their taxon. So just below the name, it says a rare water ice celestial serpent. So Lapis itself isn't ice. You have to make sure that the cryptid is actually ice. And of course, we're running 2 towns as well. Now, the main focus of this deck is, of course, Santa Claus and the Mars Golem. So Santa Claus is a very good card. Costs 3, has 13 defense, which is incredible. It has a rate of 0, which sounds bad, but what rate actually means is if your creature is defeated, you lose that much, or your opponent gains that much EV. So Santa Claus starting at 0 rate is actually pretty good, because that means if you lose him in your opponent's camp, they won't get any EV for it. However, he does have an ability where his raid value goes up for +1 for each rival camp that contains a supply card you own, which can happen through effects like exchange or other things. But generally, I think if he gets a boost just out of nowhere, then that's fine. But I'm not really looking to get the movement boost with him. I think he's good enough without it, and keeping his raid at 0, I think, is a positive thing. But the other big thing he has is while this cryptid is next to a cache, you can play a supply into it for -2 gem vision. So you could, of course, go and just play something in your opponent's camp to either destroy and replace one of their cache supplies, or just to get that bonus. But -2 gem vision on a supply is really good, and that's why we have Skullcap and Backpack in here. Because Skullcap's the most expensive supply that I wanted to use, and then Backpack's pretty good, and it's 2 cost. Now, that brings them both down to 1, because it can't bring them below 1 since you're still required to play the Lantern of the Color, since this only removes gem vision, so even though that should remove 2, it only removes 1 from the Backpack. Now, the Mars Golem is very important to the strategy because it turns all non-meteorite trails gain the meteorite type and the effect that meteorite cryptids have +2 attack and +3 defense. This is all trails. It's including your opponents. So if you have this bad boy down, then Santa Claus can move around your opponent's camp and still get meteorite trail effect, which is really nice. And of course, Mars Golem's just boss anyway, with rival cryptids level 2 or lower can't explore. Great card. The rest of this strategy here is we have 2 Trick or Treats. This is for a little bit of card draw, but it's also for the 4 trick patches, which can be used as if gem vision to play a trap. So you can use those to play the Blade Candy, or maybe your opponent will give you the draw if they think that the patches are too too scary. Um, Mrs. Claus is to fetch almost most cards in this deck, because most cards in this deck come from holiday sets. The only ones that don't are, unfortunately, the Skull Cup and the Backpack, the Astronomer, uh, Hansel and Gretel. Well, yeah, basically all the non-Kickstarter cards you can fetch with this thing, which is really nice. Um, but the shifter present here is a reason why we have these high cost supplies. So shifter present is a trap. You can choose a supply in this row and deal 4 times the damage to the exploring cryptid, where X is the chosen supply's level. So you can do 4 times 3. You can do 12 damage with this. And you can do, 8 damage with this, which is insane. If you have this on your sideline and they flip you over and you pay 1 obsidian, that's the reason why we have the Shadow Lanterns in the deck. Note that Shadow Lanterns can be tapped for a single Shadow Vision or a single Obsidian Vision without having to use the effect. I did clear that up. So these also count as a basic lantern as well. So you could technically just tap it for one Obsidian. Now that's the main kind of core of the deck. And what you're going to do with Space Age Santa Claus is you're pretty much just going to drive around your opponent's camp, moving his cryptids however you want, because when you move, you force other people to move. So you can force them into your camp, or you could just drive around and, try and hit their empty sites while you're in defense mode with that 13 defense. And hopefully boosted by the Meteorite Trails giving him an extra 3 defense. So you can basically just walk around your opponent's camp with a 16 defense Space Age Santa Claus and wreak havoc. So other than that, you of course are going to have your wish fulfilling jewel, staple in any deck. And then you're going to have the Snow Maiden, which is an incredible card that just came out with the Yuletide Cheer. It is a 2 lapis for have a camper with the smallest hand draw 1 card, which could be you, could be your opponent, but even if it is your opponent, it might be worth giving up for a 2 lapis boost. This is a ramp card if I ever seen one. It essentially doubles your energy for the turn, or just by playing it. And if you happen to have less cards in your hand than your opponent, then bam, you get an extra bonus. This is of course a CZO. And the Astronomer is our other form of draw power that we have in the deck besides the Trick or Treat. And we also have a little bit of draw power. And by a little bit, I mean a whole hand reset with New Year's Golem. And of course, the Snow Maiden is one of the reasons why we have New Year's Golem in here. It's because he's actually plausible to play in this deck. You can get a boost with Snow Maiden for an extra 2 energy, as well as the Shadow Lanterns. You can essentially throw away one of your cryptids to get 2 Obsidian Vision. So hopefully you can boost your way up to that 10. I think this deck has a better chance than any other deck I've seen so far. Now, as for our more general stuff in the deck, we do have the Black Tortoise, which I think is a really good card. Scripted, you put it in your front row, has 13 defense, and you can literally move it to anywhere in your front row to defend. Great card. You might even want to consider putting a second one of these in instead of something else. I'm not sure what I would take out, but definitely a really good card. Companion-wise, you can go with Flatwoods as your companion, which will give your cryptids rush, which you really want for Santa Claus. So Santa Claus is going to be, walking around your opponent's camp. So you move in, and then you can explore right after if he has rush. So you want to get the Flatwoods out so you can give your Santa Claus the ability to explore right after he moves. Kieran, if you want to, you could choose to make that your companion, but this is just an in-deck leader. It's a very good card. If you happen to get it out, you know, +4 to your quartz stuff, which is really good because +4 defense to the Nutcracker is insane. Because when this is in, regardless of its battle mode, this Cryptid uses its defense as its HP. If you guys have been following or if you've watched the tutorial video, new one coming soon, by the way, you'll know that when you're in attack mode in Cryptid Camp, your attack and health are actually your attack stats. So when you're normally with a Cryptid, if Hansel and Gretel are in attack mode, they actually have 0 health because they have 0 attack. So you pretty much always want to play Hansel and Gretel in defense. There's really no point. Unless you have the Sweet Tooth Witch out, which allows their attack to be their defense. Now, Hansel and Gretel, always a really good card. 1 cost. And when they're destroyed, you get to search your deck for another one. It's a really good deck cycler, especially for getting out super early. Ophanim, always a solid card. Really nice in this deck because if you don't get the right lanterns at the beginning, you'll usually have the option with 4 in your deck of playing a free Ophanim. So you'll have some kind of defense even if you don't get the right lanterns to play some cryptids right away. Fresnos are in here simply for the clear sky search. So we have our clear sky weather. You're going to want to get that out because a decent amount of cryptids take advantage of that. The Mars Golem, the Flatwoods Monster, and the Green Fireball. Now, the Green Fireball is in here because you can use it to destroy your opponent's lanterns. Like if you have better lanterns out, you could play this to destroy your opponent's lanterns. But what it's really in there for is the fact that it's a 6/3 meteorite. So once you have the golem down, it gets that boost from all the trails. But you can also just not trigger that by having a Jack Frost on the field. And if Jack Frost is on the field, you get a +1/+1 token every time a on play effect is triggered. So if you play Jack Frost on turn 2, and then you play Green Fireball on turn 3 with your Clear Sky out, then when you play this Cryptid, the effect won't happen, so you won't lose a lantern, and Jack Frost will just get a +1/+1. Same with the Fresnos. So ideally, you want to play one turn 1 to get your weather if you haven't drawn it. And then if you do happen to have drawn your weather, then you can hold this in your hand until you have Jack Frost down. And then when you play this, instead of searching for your weather, you can take the +1/+1. Well, you have to take the +1/+1 if you already have Jack Frost down. But he also prevents your opponent's on-play effects. So we have on-play effects that we don't really mind destroying. Same with the New Year's Golem here. If we manage to play the New Year's Golem, we might not want to actually give our opponent 6 cards. So having Jack Frost on the field could actually be a good thing. If we desperately need the 6 cards ourselves, then you can try and get your Jack Frost destroyed or something. But as far as just stat wise, like he's gonna crush anything. So having him in your back pocket, especially with the availability of the extra energy through Shadow Lantern and Snow Maiden Visions, I should say, not energy. Sorry. I think that he's actually plausible to play in this deck. And of course we have, I think I mentioned the Blade Candy, but the Blade Candy's in there for these. Actually, when I built this, I didn't realize that it's only Gem Vision to play traps, so you could actually only use those tokens on here. But that being said, I actually wanted to put the not the Trick or Treat. I actually wanted to put the treat bag, the first year anniversary treat bag in this deck, but it wasn't available on the website. So that being said, instead of Trick or Treats, if you have the first anniversary cards, I would put those in because it's a very good card. It's got draw power, and that's the reason why the basic lanterns in here are Jack-o'-lanterns, is because it has that extra draw power if you happen to um, play the, use the ability and it flips over a jack-o'-lantern. And maybe I'll try and put a picture of the anniversary treat bag on the screen. But just to read what it does, it says during your camp phase, you can discard this stored treasure to have all campers flip a coin. Campers who flip heads play a switched off lantern from their lantern deck, and campers who flip tails play a switched on lantern from their lantern deck. Campers who played a jack-o'-lantern in this way will draw one card. So yeah, and this is also a it's a unique supply treasure. So instead of two of these, you're going to take one of these out and you're going to place it with the first anniversary treat bag because it's unique. Um, and yeah, if you happen to draw one of your jack-o'-lanterns, you get the extra draw, which is really nice. So yeah, I think that is probably everything I can say about this deck. Um, yeah, I mean, and of course the Ophinum and the Kieran, or the Ophinum, well, all cryptids will get a really good boost from the Kieran. But another thing to keep in mind is that the North Star Trail probably want to be putting these in the back somewhere because they give you +1 exploration range. I mean, you could put it in the front and actually allow your cryptids to reach the back too. So placement of these, I'm not really sure exactly yet, but I think these are the trails to go with, especially with the Mars Golem, just essentially making them all into meteorite trails whenever he's on the field. So thank you guys for watching my videos. I really appreciate it, and I hope this deck is fun to play. I'm gonna try it at some point. I keep saying that, but I still haven't really tried too many of my own decks. So you guys will have to let me know how they are. But until next time, peace.